The trade rumors just don't stop when it comes to the Chicago Bulls, and we now have updates on how the Chicago Bulls view Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan as we approach the trade deadline. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly than that, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content. So we have an update now, this one coming from The Athletic that has been reporting on the Bulls a lot. Amick there has reported that the Chicago Bulls are adamantly now telling teams that Alex Caruso is not going to be available. They are shutting down any trade talk around Alex Caruso. Shams Charania is saying this. A bevy of teams have expressed interest in trading for the Bulls' utility star, Alex Caruso, league sources say, but the franchise has shut down those calls. So the question that a lot of people have been asking themselves up until now is that the Chicago Bulls, would they look to trade Alex Caruso as they look to move forward after the Zach LaVine trade to maybe recoup a lot of assets? Well, we now have that answer. The Bulls right now, with Alex Caruso appearing of 20 of the 23 games for the Chicago Bulls, with averages of 9.5 points per game, 3.4 rebounds, and 2.3 assists, and shooting the ball 46% from the three-point range, the Bulls have now stated that they are not trading Alex Caruso, and that is something that we had expected now for quite a while, right? And I know a lot of Bulls fans, and this is why we've been telling, and I have been using my platform and over on Locked On Bulls to tell you guys that it was the Bulls trading Zach LaVine is not going to all of a sudden trigger this. We're just moving every single asset. We're just trying to recoup every single bit of it. And on tomorrow's full episode, we'll probably take a look at what pieces on this team are going to stick around to the next version of the team, or that the Bulls front office is hoping going to be big pieces and pillars of that. But this is another sign to show that this Chicago Bulls team is not packing it all up and looking to just bottom out and be a bad team for the next few years. Now, they are probably a team that's going to add some depth in the Zach LaVine trade, see where that sits, and kind of let the chips fall where they may as far as development of the young guys, something that a lot of Bulls fans thought that they should have done instead of trading for like Nikola Vucevic and going after DeMar, giving up first-round picks in that case. But, woulda, coulda, shoulda. This is now where we are, and the Bulls are looking at a player like Alex Caruso and the value that he provides on the team and with the culture that he helped set, and they are now stating and making it sure that everyone knows they're not looking to move player in Alex Caruso. Now, I know a lot of Bulls fans are going to say, well, that could all change depending on what they get back for Zach LaVine. And here's what I'll say. Unless the Bulls get a haul back for Zach LaVine that we just aren't expecting, Alex Caruso is the type of player that if they are not looking to move, I don't think anything that they do or do not get in the Zach LaVine trade is going to move that. Alex Caruso can play on any team, on any role. As long as he gets the minutes, he's going to perform. We've seen him do that at the power forward position here. And because of that, the Bulls are going to value Alex Caruso. And here's the thing that I'm going to compare it to. Not to say that it's the same level, but much like when the Cleveland Cavaliers, after they won their title, and LeBron James left and Kyrie ended up leaving, you know who still was around that team for a while? Kevin Love. Now, they did end up moving him later down the road, but I do think that Alex Caruso could absolutely be a player that this team pays, that they're going to hopefully keep. And hopefully, I will say this, I hope that they're doing all this under the guise and understanding that they're more likely than not going to be able to extend Alex Caruso and give him the money he wants. Because if they do make this choice, once again, to miss out on a player that's trade value is probably at the highest it's going to be, and then eventually do look to move him or he walks away for nothing, this is going to be another black eye in the decision-making of the front office. But from what we know right now, Alex Caruso is a piece that this team just is not looking to move on from. And I know some Bulls fans are gonna disagree with that. But per Shams Charania, per what we're saying, and yes, no team is per se calling up Shams and saying, hey, we're not doing this. But it seems like right now, Alex Caruso is off limits to teams that are trying to call to see about his availability. And so I'm glad that the Bulls are making that known so they can focus on other things. But with that said, we also got from Amick that the Bulls are still DeMar DeRozan is still a trade candidate for the Chicago Bulls, that they still could absolutely look to move him if this extension is not agreed upon. And what we keep hearing is that the team and DeMar DeRozan are far apart on years and money. And what that means you have no framework for a contract. It'd be different if they can agree near the money, they're close to the money, it's just the years and how much you're going to spread it out. It'd be different if they were on the number of years and they just had to work out the money depending on how things go. But the fact that the Bulls and DeMar still now, months into the season and 2 months away from the trade deadline, sit at a place where they're not close, reportedly, on years or money, it may signify that a deal is not there to be done. Now, I know, like with Alex, there are a lot of Bulls fans that say DeMar has to stay on this team that think that. Don't share that opinion. I think that the Bulls probably should look to move DeMar DeRozan and see what type of value that they can get back, especially if DeMar does want to go after a title, which has eluded him so far in his NBA career. Not mad at it. Again, this is another point where I can understand the point from both teams. The fact of the matter is this: the Bulls are looking at their best when the young players are starting to be maximized. And with the play of that young roster, they could look to say, why do we want to pay two veterans? Because again, if they're already have planted their flag in, we are going to hold on to Alex Caruso as long as he wants to be here, they may not be willing to do that for both DeMar and Alex Caruso when they already have Nikola Vucevic on a guaranteed 3-year contract with 2 years left after this season. So that may be why you're hearing the kind of difference of opinion when it comes to DeMar and Alex Caruso. And so the Bulls may look at this trade deadline to move DeMar DeRozan. So it could be a more active trade deadline than just the Zach LaVine trade, but do not expect it to be where they're selling off all these pieces and the Bulls front office is going to try to hold on to enough that this team is still fighting. What they're fighting for, a play-in spot, whatever else it is, that remains to be seen on what they're going to get back. But this is a front office that is planning to put this team in this position. We also got updates on Shams from Zach LaVine, and it says that the Philadelphia 76ers and the Los Angeles Lakers are named as suitors for Zach LaVine. Now, this shouldn't be too surprising. The Lakers are always a team that are looking to add talent where they can. They've been circling around Zach LaVine for a while. Reportedly, Zach LaVine's been circling around them for a while. So, even though they just won the inaugural in-season tournament, they could be looking to maybe move some of their young pieces or Austin Reeves for a player in Zach LaVine that they just would not be able to go out and sign outright in free agency because of the limitations that they have on their salary cap. It would still be a nice trade that they would have to put in a lot of pieces to match the contract of Zach LaVine. And so because of that, it is something to keep monitoring and watching and see how it goes. But the Lakers being a team that is rumored to be interested in Zach really doesn't surprise me too much. I think it makes sense. The biggest thing when it comes down to the Lakers trying to move Zach LaVine is what are the pieces that they're willing to put in. A lot of Bulls fans are going to automatically say that they would like to get Jared Vanderbilt in there, considering his contract's $44 million before his extension kicks in this last year, which at that point his contract goes up to over $10 million. It may be a little bit difficult to include Jared Vanderbilt. He's another player that I don't think could be moved. I don't even think it's the December 15th date. I think he's that January 15th date. And then we've already heard about Jalen Hood-Schifino, which was a lottery pick for them this last season. So again, he was right outside the lottery, number 17 overall. He could be somebody that they look to include in the deal. But again, that contract doesn't get them close. Austin Reeves, at $12 million, or Rui Hachimura, it's probably going to be one of the pieces that have to be included in the Zach LaVine deal. Then maybe D'Angelo Russell. Either one of those two players combined with D'Angelo Russell gets you enough of the way there, especially if you're adding in Jalen Hood-Schifino. But we'll end up seeing what that deal is going to end up looking like. But to hear that the Lakers are interested shouldn't really surprise anybody. I think everybody kind of knows that the Lakers are going to circle around that, and they could be a team always looking to add a talented, maybe star-level player, especially in that system coming in. He'd be third fiddle in that offensive pecking order, especially as Anthony Davis, if he can stay healthy. And then you look at the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this is a team that did lose out, and they had to trade James Harden away. Now, the biggest question there is, would they want to add Zach LaVine next to Tyrese Maxey, who is growing in his own right as a scorer and facilitator, or they could look and say, hey, there is something to say that it could fit here. Now, I have some questions about the fit. That's not for me to worry about. Again, they have Pat Bev there as well, somebody who will maybe singing the praises of Zach LaVine. We know how he looked and viewed Zach LaVine in his time here, which could make sense. But then you got to look at the contracts. How could they match the contracts? And honestly, it's pretty easy. If it's just expiring in first-round picks, Tobias Harris for Zach LaVine trade works, I think, 1-for-1. If that's the case, maybe they throw in one of their young players as well, which they don't really have a whole hell of a lot of them. Maybe a Kelly Oubre Jr. to just push it over. But then you got to look at the first-round picks that the Philadelphia 76ers have. They have their own first-round pick outright in 2024. They do owe a first-round pick in 2025, which is protected to the OKC Thunder, which means that they can't move that 2024 pick. the Philadelphia 76ers do have a 2026 pick from the OKC Thunder that they could then look to move on. But, is that going to get it done, right? So at the end of the day, the Philadelphia 76ers don't have the clear outright picks that they can offer for Zach LaVine. They don't really have the upcoming young talent that we've rumored to hear either. So I don't know how they're going to work out that deal. I'm not saying that they can't. It's the NBA. We've seen that if a team is motivated to get a deal done and both sides want to get it done, they'll find a way to get it done. I just don't think it's as clear-cut as some of the other rumors we've heard around Zach LaVine, but we'll continue to monitor it. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Follow the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.